Good day and welcome to Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com. I'm John Marino and we are produced by Sharc Creative. That is Sharc with a C, not a K. You see the logo in orange and blue on the wall behind me, and we are made possible by our good friends at Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center, supporting our communities right through April of 2021. Lipolis Electric, don't be left in the dark. You get Lipolis, and Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. Now, we are joined here on The Beat in Westchester by Steve Greenberg. Steve Greenberg is Pollster with the Siena Research Institute, just outside Albany. I want to remind you that coming up this weekend, this Saturday and Sunday, over at Balducci's in Scarsdale, Saturday, 15 Palmer Avenue, Sunday at the Rye Ridge Shopping Center in Rye Brook, both days, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Our annual, this time around, our 5th annual food drive, our Stuff a Truck for Feeding Westchester food drive to help those in need of food during the holidays, to help the homeless during the holidays, to help those who need shelter, to help those who need a hand, a lifeline during the holidays. Come join us 10 to 4, Saturday in Scarsdale, 15 Palmer Avenue, and Sunday, Rye Ridge Shopping Center in Rye Brook, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Balducci's, both days. If you can't come on down and bring your food contribution, or go into Balducci's and buy one of their prepackaged food contributions, very reasonably priced. You can buy it and drop it in our truck and stuff it as high as we can get it. We get it really high every year, thanks to you. You can go online and contribute. If you can't come down Sunday, make a monetary contribution online. Go to our website, westchestertalkradio.com. Make your contribution there, and we thank you, Steve Greenberg. We thank you as always, and I know you're a busy guy this month of December, and we got a lot going on. First of all, as we look towards 2021, what do New Yorkers see and want as we approach the new year?
Well, when it comes to state government in Albany, and that's what we asked the voters about when we spoke to them a couple of weeks ago, we said, what do you think should be the top priority that you want Governor Cuomo and the state legislature to work on when they come back into session in 2021? And far and away, the number one answer was addressing the coronavirus pandemic. No great shock there. 46% of New Yorkers say it is their top priority. We also asked voters, after they gave us their top priority, what would be your second top priority? So when we look at the top two priorities combined, 60% of New Yorkers say that addressing the coronavirus pandemic is one of their top two priorities. The rest of the issues are all a distant second or lower. Helping businesses to succeed, 12% said it was their top choice, their top priority, and that's the issue that finished number two. Creating jobs, 11%, improving healthcare, 9%, closing the state budget gap, 7%, addressing racial inequality, 6%, and helping increase funding for schools, only 5%. So pandemic is the issue. It is across the board. Democrats make pandemic the number one issue by far. Republicans, it's the number one issue, but not by as big a margin. 30% of Republicans make it their top issue, and 25% of Republicans make helping businesses to succeed their top issue.
But are some of these other issues COVID related too? We could pretty much put it all in the same category, all on the COVID bank?
Well, we did ask voters a question about whether they will get a vaccine when that becomes available. If the FDA approves a vaccine, will you definitely get it? Probably not, or definitely not get the vaccine. And what we find is a little more than a third, 35% say they will definitely get it. 34% say they will probably get it. So what you have is more than 2/3 of voters, 69%, say they will definitely or probably get the vaccine. 11% say probably not, and 13% of New Yorkers say definitely not going to take the vaccine. Do we see some differences? Yeah, but really not a lot. So 74% of Democrats say they will definitely or probably get the vaccine, 65% of Republicans, and 64% of independents. And if we look at it geographically, 77% of New York City voters definitely or probably, 63% of downstate suburbanites, and 64% of upstaters.
I would have guessed around the 2/3 overall. So what I had in my head, I guess, is pretty much in the ballpark right there.
Right. And I think what we have to hope for is that, between Governor Cuomo at the state level, local officials at the local level, and certainly, the federal government, be it President Trump or after January 20th, President Biden, we need an education campaign to help the New Yorkers, Americans understand that the vaccine, if in fact is safe, that the vaccine is safe, and here's why you should get it, and here's why getting it helps all of us. So there's going to need to be an education campaign, and I would think that, after the FDA, assuming they do approve the first one next week and the second one in 2 weeks, assuming they do that, I think there will be an education campaign, and that may move voters in terms of how they feel about this, and particularly the further we get away from the election.
Did you get any indication about those who seemed like they would not get the vaccine right away, why that would be the case? Is it just a matter of trust and let's see if it works first?
I think that's a percentage of it. No, we didn't ask a follow-up question, so I can't, answer that issue. We do know that, if we go back a year from now, go back to December of 2019, before any of us ever heard of COVID-19, there was still a significant anti-vaccine movement in New York and again, across America. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is very much a leader in that movement, but there are a lot of folks involved in that. So you have that, core of people, New Yorkers, Americans, who don't believe in vaccines at all. But then I think in terms of this specific vaccine, it's brand new. It's come so quickly. I think there are people who just say, I want to make sure. I want to know. Yeah, I'll get it. Maybe I won't be the first, but I'll get it. So I think that's why we need this kind of public education campaign.
And I've spoken to a few people who would be in a high risk category. You would think they push each other out of the way online to get it. And they've told me, let's see, John. So I would ask them, so you want to wait and see if it works, right? Regardless of the fact that you're at high risk. And they said, yep, let's see how it goes. And then we'll take it from there. So all this falls pretty much all in line, all in the same category, I think.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Look, it is hard to find unanimity on any issue. But the fact that, as a starting place, that 69% of New Yorkers say they probably or definitely will get the vaccine, that's not a bad starting place.
Steve Greenberg, our guest on The Beat in Westchester. I'm John Marino, and we are WestchesterTalkRadio.com, and we are made possible by our good friends at Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center, supporting our communities through April of 2021. Also by White Plains Hospital. Special thanks to all those at White Plains Hospital, all they've done throughout the COVID-19 pandemic here in 2020. Park Sterling Realty of Bronxville, Wartburg Healthcare and Rehabilitation in Mount Vernon, and Michael Labriola Landscape Design and Construction in Armonk. Steve Greenberg, Siena Research Institute Pollster. Steve, throughout this COVID pandemic, basically since April, Governor Cuomo had gotten the right to expand his executive authority, his executive powers in the state of New York. I know one of the questions you asked this time around was kind of like Ed Koch style. If Andy Cuomo were posing the question, it would be, how am I doing?
Well, what we asked voters is we told them that back in the spring, the state legislature gave the governor some extraordinary executive powers to help manage the state through this coronavirus pandemic. And we asked voters, do you think the state legislature should or should not continue to allow the governor to have these extraordinary executive powers? And what we find is that by a 57 to 35% margin. So not overwhelming, but still a 22-point margin. New Yorkers say, yes, the legislature should continue to give the governor these extraordinary executive powers to help manage the state. Now, you're not going to be surprised that on a question like this, we do have a fairly wide partisan divide. So 73% of Democrats say Cuomo should continue to have these powers, as do 55% of independent voters. But by a 70 to 26% margin, Republicans say, no, legislature, it's time to take those powers back from the governor and we should operate the way we normally do. But the governor should not continue to have these extraordinary powers. We also see a geographic divide. So overwhelmingly in New York City, 71% of voters say Cuomo should continue to have these powers. In the downstate suburbs, they think he should, but not overwhelmingly, 53 to 40%. And upstaters, closely divided. 44% think he should, 46% say he should not have these powers any longer.
Now, these numbers still indicate, at least to me, that the governor's favorability ratings, at least statewide, would still be pretty good.
Yeah, look, he is way down from his record highs. Back in April, he hit record high on favorability, on job performance rating. Those numbers came down a tad in May, a little bit in June, a little bit more in October. And now where are they in November? 53% of New Yorkers right now say they have a favorable view of Andrew Cuomo. 39% have an unfavorable view, down from where it was in October prior to the election when he was at a 59-33. His job performance rating still positive, 54 positive, 45 negative. Again, down from where it was in April and even down from where it was in November. And then we asked a question that we have not asked in a couple of years. It's the first time we're asking it in this cycle. As we know, we just passed the presidential election. That means 2 years from now, we have a gubernatorial election. And so Andrew Cuomo is right now finishing his 10th year as governor. He is completing the midway point of his third term as governor. So we asked voters, if Andrew Cuomo were to run for re-election in 2012, would you vote to re-elect him or would you prefer someone else? And by a 51 to 42% margin, voters say in December, or actually this poll was in November of 2020, that they are prepared to re-elect him. And again, huge partisan divide. 71% of Democrats say they're prepared to re-elect Cuomo. Independents closely divided, but negative. 44% of independents prepared to re-elect Cuomo. 48% would prefer someone else. And among Republicans, not surprisingly, 79% of Republicans say, yeah, you keep Cuomo, give me somebody else.
Now, a number of states nationwide have legalized marijuana the past few years. New Jersey on Election Day, the latest to do this, the governor indicating verbally that we are really close to getting that done in New York State. What do New Yorkers overall think about legalizing pot?
Well, right now they support it almost 2-1. It is the largest margin of support we have seen at Siena College in asking this question, which goes back several years. But right now, 60% of voters say they support legalizing the recreational use of marijuana. 32% oppose it. What's interesting on this one, John, you got support from 63% of Democrats and 68% of independents, even more than Democrats. Republicans closely divided, but by a 48 to 45% narrow 3-point margin, Republicans support it. It's got support evenly across the state, 60% in New York City, 59% in the downstate suburbs, 62% upstate. You know where the real divide is on this one?
Where?
Age. Voters under 35 support legalization 80 to 18%.
Wow.
80% of voters under 35 say the state should legalize the recreational use of marijuana.
And how about
voters
guys like you and me?
Well, yeah, I was going to say voters 55 and older, my category, unfortunately.
Me too.
We support it, but not nearly as much, 49 to 39. Mm-hmm. So 10-point margin of support among those 55 and older, 62-point margin of support among the voters 35 and under.
I'm not shocked by the independent numbers among independents because many independents in New York are libertarians. Libertarians I talk to say, legalize it. And we believe the government should get out of our way. So if we want to smoke pot, that's up to me, not somebody up in Albany to tell me I can or cannot do that. Sports gambling, too, in New York State. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying my grandfather, may he rest in peace, who they say I look and act like, I have all of his mannerisms. I say one thing that I don't have that he had. On the way to work, many a day, he'd stop by over at Yonkers Raceway on the way to work and maybe not get to work that day. So I like to tell people my grandfather helped build Yonkers Raceway in the early days, not with his hands, but with his wallet. Unfortunately, sports gambling seems to be nationwide, of course. It's one of the biggest things now. You can't turn anywhere without getting the odds on something, like whether or not I'm going to get hit by a car if I cross the street. What are the odds on that?
Well, we as voters, I mean, right now, there is limited sports betting in New York, but you have, in order to bet on sports legally in New York, what you have to do is go to one of the casinos, the upstate casinos, the one in Schenectady,
Right.
the one in Cuyahoga County, the one in Tioga County, and there you can actually, you know, it's like being in a Vegas casino. They have the sports book. You can bet on Yankees or Mets or Giants or Jets or who's going to win the opening, coin toss, whatever you want to bet on, you can bet there. What the issue right now for New York is, should there be online sports betting? Should I be able to, sit here, pick up my phone and make a sports bet? And when we ask voters, right now they support it, but not overwhelmingly. 50% of New Yorkers say they support online legalizing online sports gambling in New York. 32% oppose it. Not a huge partisan difference. 52% of Democrats support it. Republicans, 48%, a plurality, not a majority, but a plurality of Republicans, 48% support it. And among independents, biggest support. Again, going back to your point, 55% support. So there's not, a huge clamoring, but right now New Yorkers by a reasonable, 18-point margin say they would support online sports betting.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what I'm just returning a text message. Not gambling. Sorry about that. Yeah, there you go. At least not yet, right?
You cannot do it legally in New York yet.
Yep, without a doubt. So to me, you want to legalize pot, you want to legalize gambling, just looks like different ways. And I understand what the state is trying to do, need to raise money somehow. You got to bring tax money in. So we'll see what happens with that, regardless of people's different trains of thoughts about whether or not it's right, wrong, good, bad. I think the state's outlook is that let's bring some tax bucks in, and who knows what else they might come up with down the road. Steve Greenberg, we thank you as always for joining us here on Westchester Talk Radio. Happy holidays to you and yours, Steve.
You too, John. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Same here. We'll talk soon. Steve Greenberg, Siena Research Institute outside Albany, Pollster, our good friend here on Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com. On the beat in Westchester, I'm John Marino. We are produced by Sharc Creative. That's Sharc with a C, not a K. Got the logo in orange and blue on the wall behind me. Made possible by our good friends at N2G, the Indian Point Energy Center, supporting our communities through April of 2021. Electric, don't be left in the dark. You get Lipolis, Hightower, Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. White Plains Hospital, we thank you, our heroes of White Plains Hospital, all you've done throughout the COVID-19 pandemic year in 2020. Wartburg Healthcare and Rehabilitation in Mount Vernon, Park Sterling Realty in Clarksville, and Michael Labriola Landscape Design and Construction in Armonk. Thank you one and all, and we thank you for joining us. Catch all of our Westchester, Putnam County, Fairfield County, and Dutchess County talk radio programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube.